Imagine this. You have given 7 years of your life to one person. 7 years of prayers whispered under your breath at night. 7 years of turning down other men, other opportunities, other futures, because you believed in a promise made beneath a mango tree. 7 years of waking up every morning and choosing the same person who was not even in the same city as you. Now imagine it is a Tuesday morning, the most unremarkable day of the week. You are in your shop, surrounded by rows of Ankara and lace, and your phone rings. Your cousin's voice comes through, careful and slow, the way people speak when they are delivering something that will shatter you. Adunola, I think you need to know something. I saw it on Facebook, and when the words finally land, all of them, fully assembled into their horrible shape, you do not scream, you do not cry, you do something far worse. You go silent, because the man you waited 7 years for did not just move on. He moved on with your best friend, the same woman who held you while you cried about him, the same woman who knew every secret, every sacrifice, every prayer you had ever offered up for that relationship. He gave her the ring, he gave her the restaurant photo, he gave her the caption that read, "She said yes, God is good." Now here is the question that will haunt you as you listen to this story. What do you do when you have built your entire future around someone and they hand that future to someone else? Do you collapse? Do you become bitter? Do you let it end you, or do you let it build you? Stay with us at Karachi Tales Stories, because what happened next to Adunola Fadeyi is not a story about heartbreak. It is a story about what a woman is capable of becoming when everything she trusted is stripped away. Subscribe to Karachi Tales Stories right now and turn on your notification bell, because we tell the kind of stories that remind you that your pain is not the end of your story. It is only the beginning of the real one. In the city of Abeokuta, where the ancient Olumo rock rises like a quiet witness over everything that happens below it, a young woman named Adunola Fadeyi fell in love during the harmattan season of December 2009. She was 22 years old, the kind of woman whose smile could stop a conversation in a crowded room. She had a gap between her front teeth that she used to hide behind her hand, until a man named Rotimi Afolabi told her it was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. After that, she never hid it again. Rotimi was 25, broad-shouldered, with careful hands, and a laugh that filled whatever room he was standing in. He was the kind of man who made you feel like the world was slightly warmer when he was nearby. Adunola did not plan to fall in love with him. She simply did, the way you fall into deep water, gradually at first, and then all at once. They were not officially together in the way young people formalize things today. What they had was older than that, more rooted, the understanding of two people from the same streets, the same church pews, the same harmattan mornings. He would sit with her under the large mango tree in her mother's compound on Ita Eko and tell her about his plans. He was going to Lagos. He had a connection there. He was going to build something, and then he was going to come back and do things properly. "Wait for me," he told her, beneath that tree, the dry December wind moving through the leaves above them. She was 22 years old. She was in love. She said yes. That was her first mistake, not because waiting is wrong, but because she placed her entire life on pause for a man who never asked her to. And that is a different thing entirely. Rotimi left for Lagos in early 2010. The first year, the communication was steady. Phone calls that stretched late into the night, texts that arrived like small gifts in the middle of an ordinary afternoon. He told her he was working in an auto parts business with his cousin. He told her he was saving. He told her to be patient. Adunola was patient. She ran her mother's small fabric stall in Ijemo Market, and she was patient. She turned down the civil servant named Biodun, who came asking for her hand 3 times with increasing desperation. She turned down a man from Sagamu who drove a Toyota Camry and wore his money quietly. She turned down possibilities that a younger version of herself would have examined more carefully. She was waiting. She had made a promise under a mango tree, and she was the kind of woman who kept promises. But promises, she would learn, are only as strong as the person who makes them on the other side. The calls became less frequent by 2012. Weeks passed between them. When he called, it sounded distracted, not unkind, never unkind, but the way a man sounds when his attention is somewhere else, and he has not yet found the courage to say so. He still spoke of coming back, still spoke of doing things properly, but the details had grown vague, the way a photograph fades when left in sunlight for too long. Adunola told herself it was the pressure of building a life. She told herself Lagos did that to people. She told herself patience was not a weakness, but a virtue. She told herself many things, because the alternative, that she had given her best years to a promise that was quietly dying, was too large a thing to look at directly. In 2015, Rotimi came home for his cousin's funeral. It was the first time Adunola had seen his face in 3 years. He had changed, filled out, city-smoothed, wearing the collared shirt that said he had made something of himself after all. He held her hands in his family compound and looked at her with an expression she could not fully read. "You look the same," he said. "You look different," she replied. He laughed. She melted, because she was still deeply, foolishly in love, and love of that particular kind does not require much warmth to reignite. He stayed 4 days. He visited her twice. He held her again under the mango tree and said something she would carry like a stone in her chest for the next 2 years. "I am almost there, Adunola. Just a little more time. You know I cannot come home empty-handed." She nodded. She smiled. She showed her gap tooth. She believed him. What she did not know was that on his third night in Abeokuta, Bisola Ogunyemi had gone to see him. Bisola, her friend, the woman who had sat beside her and said he will come back. Adunola, men like that always come back. The woman who knew every conversation, every sacrifice, every prayer Adunola had made for this relationship. Something had been growing between them. In the dark, in the digital space between loyalty and distance, fed by late-night texts and secrets that were never Adunola's to know. It had been growing quietly, the way dangerous things grow when nobody is looking. 2016 passed like a held breath. 2017 arrived like a stranger who does not knock. It was on a Tuesday morning in March of 2017, a Tuesday which should not be allowed to carry life-changing news, that Adunola's cousin called from Lagos. The words came in pieces, then they assembled, then the full shape of the disaster became clear. Rotimi Afolabi had gotten engaged to Bisola Ogunyemi. The Facebook post showed both of them in front of a restaurant on Victoria Island. Bisola's hand raised to show the ring, Rotimi's arm around her shoulder, both of them laughing into the camera as if the world were a simple and generous place. The caption read, "She said yes, God is good." Adunola read it 3 times. She was looking for an error, a different name, a different face, some cosmic mistake that would shortly be corrected. There was no mistake. She sat down on the floor of her fabric shop, right there, among the rows of Ankara and lace and adair, and she did not cry. She did not scream. She went completely still, inside and outside, as if someone had reached into her chest and switched off everything that powered her. Her apprentice, a 16-year-old girl, found her there 30 minutes later and ran to call Mama Fadei. 7 years. She had given 7 years, and the man had given the ring to her best friend. The wedding was in December of 2017. They did not invite her. Abeokuta, is not a city that keeps secrets. The rocks know your business before you do. And word reached Adunola through someone who believed they were helping. She did not attend. She closed her shop that Saturday and sat inside her mother's house and listened to the ordinary sounds of a city that did not pause for her grief. A generator humming somewhere, children arguing in the street, the world continuing without apology. Her mother sat with her all day, did not speak, did not offer explanations or consolations or advice, just sat. That silence was the greatest act of love Adunola had ever been shown. What do you do when 7 years of your life have been handed to someone who gave them to someone else? What do you do when the woman who held you while you cried was the reason for your tears? In Abeokuta, the Olumo Rock does not offer answers. It simply stands. It has been standing since before anyone alive today was born, and it will be standing long after all of us are gone. There is a lesson in that. Not a comfortable one, but a real one. You survive, and surviving, if you do it properly, eventually becomes something more than survival. Adunola threw herself into her work with the single-minded focus of a woman who has nothing left to lose. She expanded the fabric shop. She took a loan that frightened her to sign. She added a tailoring section, hired 3 seamstresses, began supplying fabrics in bulk to event planners and wedding coordinators across Ogun State. She was not doing it to prove anything to Rotimi. She had stopped thinking about Rotimi in the way you stop using a road after a bridge collapses. Not with anger, simply with the quiet necessity of finding another way. By 2019, Fadei Fabrics and Design had moved from Ijemo Road to a proper commercial space on Oke Itoku with a painted signboard and a generator and a growing list of loyal customers. She was not happy yet, but she was building something real with her own hands, and that steadiness beneath her feet was more trustworthy than anything they promised under a mango tree had ever given her. She did not date anyone. She was not yet ready to trust that particular kind of ground again, but she was breathing, and for the moment, that was enough. It was a humid afternoon in August of 2021 when a man walked into Fadei Fabrics and Design, requesting 8 yards of gold-colored brocade for his mother's 70th birthday celebration. His name was Lanre Oduola, 40 years old, originally from Ibadan, now settled in Abeokuta to manage the properties his late father had left behind. He had a full beard going slightly grey at the edges, and the calm, unhurried manner of a man who had stopped needing to impress anyone. He spoke quietly, he listened fully, he paid without bargaining, and thanked her with a sincerity that seemed entirely without effort. He returned the following week, claiming he had left his phone behind. Adunola's apprentice checked every drawer. There was no phone. Lanre smiled, not an embarrassed smile, a calm one, the smile of a man who has decided to be honest about what he is doing. "There is no phone here," Adunola said. "I know," he replied. "I wanted to see your shop again." She showed her gap-toothed smile before she could think to stop herself. Lanre Oduola was not a man who made promises under mango trees. He was a man who simply showed up, on convenient days and inconvenient ones, in good moods and difficult ones. He called when he said he would call. He remembered small things, that she liked her pepper soup without too much crayfish, that she hated being interrupted mid-sentence, that March always made her a little quiet and a little distant, and he never once asked her to explain why. He did not compete with the ghost of Rotimi Afolabi. He did not try to erase what had happened or speak badly of the past or position himself as a correction to a previous wrong. He simply continued to appear solid and consistent like the Olumo Rock itself, requiring nothing except that she noticed he was there. Adunola fell in love for the second time, the way a person falls after walking carefully for a very long time. Not because she tripped, but because she finally allowed herself to stop bracing. On a Saturday evening in April of 2023, Lanre Oduola knelt in her mother's sitting room, with Mama Fadei present, the old woman's hands pressed over her own mouth in disbelief and joy, and he said something that undid 13 years of carefully held breath. Adunola, I am not here to make you forget anything. I am here to make sure that everything you went through was worth it, because it brought you to today, and today, I am asking you to let me love you for the rest of your life. Mama Fadei wept. She did not try to stop herself. She had been holding things back for far too long, and she wept the way a woman weeps when a prayer she had quietly stopped asking for has somehow, improbably, been answered anyway. Adunola looked at Lanre, at his grey-edged beard, at his steady, honest hands, at the way he looked at her, not as a prize he was claiming, but as a person he genuinely understood. Someone whose story he had heard and whose future he wanted to share. She thought briefly of the mango tree, of harmattan, of a girl of 22 who said I will wait, and meant it with everything she had, not knowing that the waiting itself would become a story, not the man she had waited for, but what the waiting had made her into. The expanded shop, the signboard, the seamstresses, the woman she had assembled herself into, piece by careful piece, out of the wreckage of a promise that was never kept. She looked at Lanre Oduola, and with a full gap-toothed smile, with her voice steady and certain, she said, "Yes." The wedding was held in December of 2023 in the compound of her mother's tour house in Ita Echo, beneath the same mango tree that had watched a 22-year-old girl make a promise to the wrong person 14 years before. The tree did not judge, it simply provided shade, the way old things do, the way wisdom does, without fanfare or resentment. Bisola was not there. Rotimi was not there. The civil servant Biodun, who had come asking for her hand 3 times all those years ago, sent a gift and a handwritten note that said simply, "Congratulations, Adunola. You deserved this all along." She kept the note. The story you just witnessed, of a woman who waited 7 years, lost everything she thought she had built, and then built something far greater with her own hands, is not simply a love story. It is a lesson about what happens when you refuse to let betrayal become your burial. Adunola did not become great because she was lucky. She became great because when the ground disappeared beneath her feet, she did not wait for someone to replace it. She went and laid new ground herself, piece by piece, invoice by invoice, signboard by signboard, and she remained open, not desperate, not reckless, but genuinely open to the possibility that real love does not always arrive when you are 22 and full of harmattan dreams. Sometimes it arrives when you are 35, standing in a fabric shop you built with your own courage, and a man walks in, claiming he left a phone he never had. This week, ask yourself honestly, what promise made by someone else have you placed your entire life on hold for? What waiting have you confused with loyalty? What could you build in the time you are spending in pause? Write it down. Be honest with yourself. Then take one step, just one, that belongs entirely to your own future and not to someone else's promises. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of someone you know or a season you have lived through, share it with them. Not because we want the numbers, but because some stories are medicine, and medicine is meant to be passed around. Comment below with "Adunola deserved better" if this story spoke to something inside you. We read every single comment on Karachi Tales Stories, and your words remind us why we do this work. Hit the notification bell right now on Karachi Tales Stories so you never miss a single one. Like this video, If Adunola's story gave you something, a thought, a feeling, a renewed sense of what is still possible for your life, subscribe to Karachi Tales Stories if you are new here, because we tell the stories that the world forgets to tell. The stories of ordinary people who did extraordinary things in silence, without applause, and without anyone watching.